Oh, no, not Jimmy Kimmel. Well, NFL New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers actually suggested live on ESPN's air yesterday that comedian and host Jimmy Kimmel will be on Jeffrey Epstein's client list, which is expected to be released later this week. Let's watch.
Mm-hmm. Bring it up, Foxy or somebody back there.
Seats on it.
Bring up Super Bowl 58.
You'll see it.
The emblem. Put it on the screen. And then bring up 57 and 56.
Does that have something to do with the Epstein list that came out?
Feels like
That's supposed to be coming out soon.
Look, this guy's been waiting in his wine cellar.
Yeah.
I've been waiting in my wine cellar for this thing.
A lot of people, including Jimmy Kimmel, are really hoping that doesn't.
All right. Obviously, a clip from this particular program was run on Jimmy Kimmel's show whenever Aaron brought up the list, and then Jimmy mocked him for it. Mm-hmm. Aaron has not forgotten about that, but here we are, sitting right in front of that nice bottle of scotch.
Kimmel slammed Rodgers over these accusations, writing on X, "Dear a-hole, for the record, I've not met, flown with, visited, or had any contact whatsoever with Epstein, nor will you find my name on any list other than the clearly phony nonsense that soft-brained wackos like yourself can't seem to distinguish from reality. Your reckless words put my family in danger. Keep it up, and we will debate the facts further in court." As of this recording, we're still waiting on the release of that full list.
So Rodgers and Kimmel have history. They don't like each other. Kimmel called Rodgers a tinfoil hatter, I think, about Epstein stuff. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers shouldn't just say untrue things about Jimmy Kimmel. I think that was said in a kind of joking way, but Kimmel has threatened to sue over it. So you got to watch stuff like that. You can't just accuse people of things made up.
Why do you think there is so much interest among celebrities in particular, it seems, in making these kinds of speculative claims about each other, at the same time that there are so many of these same celebrities that seem to have close friendships, affinities for, support for people that are confirmed to have been on Epstein's flight logs, to have had relationship with Epstein, whether it's someone like Donald Trump, who is pictured numerous times with Epstein, who clearly flew around with Epstein, who was friends with Epstein, or someone like Bill Clinton, who you can say much of the same about, who had Ghislaine Maxwell at his daughter's wedding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, and I have to correct something I said yesterday. The painting of Bill Clinton in the lady dress, that is real, and it did belong to Epstein. It was in his New York apartment. It was not on Epstein Island.
Okay.
Just to clarify, a lot of people wrote to me yesterday and pointed out how I got that wrong, so I want to set the record straight. Look, there has been tremendous interest in the Epstein case in recent years. I don't know if from celebrities specifically, certainly from right-wing people, from independent populist type people. Honestly, I didn't know much about the case, the situation, until the arrest and then death of Epstein. I hadn't heard of him, frankly, until then. And then when I talked about it a little bit on Fox, I used to be on Fox more often. And then when I started hosting Rising, I noticed that there was huge interest in this subject, which I understand it because it's a remarkable story. It's something that blows your mind if you're not, I think, accustomed to deep skepticism of our system and skepticism of rich and powerful people in government, in business, in law, et cetera. You say, the kind of normal person reaction is, oh my God, how is it that it's the case that this guy has been doing this and he never got caught, or he kind of got caught and then he kept doing it, and why are these people associating with him? Why wouldn't they think more about that? But then people who are more skeptical of institutions and the people at the top of them say, well, this proves what we were saying all along, that people are corrupt.
But it's not that. They're not saying that. They are weaponizing the existence of a high-profile case of a child abuser to suit their political whims, when their political whims are actually, in fact, dramatically undermined by the existence of this man and his ties to the very politicians they purport are somehow not a part of the elite, not a part of the blob.
I didn't quite follow.
So Aaron Rodgers is someone who said he's going to vote for RFK Jr. RFK Jr. has admitted to flying more than once on Epstein's plane. Now, that does not tie him to any specific accusation, obviously, of child abuse. But if we're casting stones at politicians' affiliations with Epstein to say I have a beef with Jimmy Kimmel, so I'm going to say that you're going to be associated with Epstein, when the guy you've already said you're going to support politically has acknowledged that he has flown on Epstein's jet multiple times. When you have all of these people who are supportive of Donald Trump, who aver that he is not a part of the establishment, that he's outside of this elite cabal of people who are doing these horrible things, who had such a close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, whose labor secretary was the guy that was the architect of Epstein's plea deal in the early aughts that enabled him to get out of jail after his first charges of molesting children.
Yeah, had to resign because of it. Look, I have seen a lot. I will say in the last 24 hours, I've seen a number more of just not people I can name, but conservative accounts saying that we want the truth. We want, even if this is damning for Trump, he deserves it just as much as everyone else. Maybe that sentiment isn't real, but I've seen it expressed a lot more in the last 24 hours than I had before that.
It does feel distasteful
which is good
to me for anybody to be weaponizing what is a tragic reality of the world more broadly, but specifically what Jeffrey Epstein did, to score political points and to make an accusation. I mean, we're kind of talking about this in a lighthearted way, and Aaron Rodgers brought this up in a kind of lighthearted, joking way. But there's something about the way that the discourse around Epstein is happening that pushes to the edges the horror of what he has actually been accused and convicted of. And I'm uncomfortable with it. I'm uncomfortable with it. It is clearly at this point a political football, no pun intended, and people seem not to have an interest in Epstein because of how horrible it is that so many powerful people in a society get away with abusing minors, but because it's a way to take your political opponents down.
Yeah, but that's the way we live in a totally partisan, politicized society, and the only way anyone ever gets taken down is if their enemies latch on to some convenient but true thing to go after them for. Trump, Biden, there's a BS component to it because they're both weaponized witch hunt type things, but there's also legitimacy to it because probably they both did legal things that are technically violate the law. In Trump's case, having to do with the election. In Biden's case, having to do with his son's influence peddling that we're gonna adjudicate, and people on the other side both want to defend them because that's just how it goes. That's how it is now.
Well, there's millions of people who would prefer to have a third-party candidate. There's millions of people who once voted for Joe Biden who said they're not going to vote with him again because they object to his support of the genocide in Gaza, or because he reneged on his promise to raise the minimum wage, which would be the first time since 2009.
Well, that's policy, but you were talking about kind of malfeasance or corruption.
No, but you said that the reason that we focus on these things is that the only way to take people down is to talk about these sort of weaponized, non-substantive behaviors that they may or may not have engaged in. And I'm saying I don't think that's actually true. I think that most people, millions of people, many people, if not most people, are deeply engaged in the substance, but that kind of thing doesn't get breakthrough and traction in the media. I don't think millions of
people are deeply engaged in the substance. With respect to the Epstein situation, I think for me it matters more at what point the involvement is. I mean, obviously, all the involvement is pretty distasteful and gross, but I'm particularly interested in people like Bill Gates, who can, and it seems like some Bank of America officials and perhaps the government of the Virgin Islands still being involved with him after his crimes are so public that he was prosecuted for child sex stuff. So, and obviously people on his client list, so these are people ostensibly who received sexual services with young girls from him. Those are the clients, because that's the service he's providing, right? So I guess, anyone on that list, it doesn't matter at what time they entered into the arrangement, but we're going to find out, I guess, if we see new names or names we already know on that part of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, stick with us. We have more Rising for you right after this.